Okay, so
Yep. Here we go.
here we go. So welcome everybody to the Roosevelt Island Garden Club Outreach Compost virtual meetup. This was, really glad you guys are here, and I'm so disappointed that we can't gather, have formal events in the garden right now. So Julie and I were kind of kicking around. We loved the outreach that you guys did last year. So we thought, well, let's do a virtual, try something in the modern world and do a little virtual meetup.
Mm-hmm.
And so also we thought, okay, what's a good first topic for a garden to gardener sharing opportunity? And since we're all holding organic matter right now in our plots, and because composting is really, really good for the environment, saves on all those greenhouse gases, and it also can provide nutrients for in your own plot. We thought that kind of sharing some ways for everybody, what different people, different gardeners are doing in their own plot to either hold it or compost directly in your plot and provide those essential nutrients right back into the soil, we thought would be a good first topic. So we have 4 gardeners today sharing their different tips. So I'm really excited about that, and thank you in advance to everybody who's sharing today. But I also want to enlist everybody who's here today to share your own ideas as well. So there's a little chat box down in the bottom. So you guys can put 2 things in the chat box. You can put questions that you have of the person who's presenting in there, and then each presentation, I'll pull those questions out for them, and then you guys can also ask questions if you want. But also, if you have your own ideas of things that have been working for you, put those in the chat box too, because these 4 people, it's not the only way to do it. There's lots of other ways to do this composting right in your plot. So you guys share your own, share everything out yourself as well. Let's see. So one more thing that I wanted to have housekeeping. Right now, everybody's doing a great job. There's no background sounds, but it might help if you're starting to hear any background noise. You might want to mute yourself while you're not talking, and then when you want to talk, you can unmute, and then we can hear you. We're a small enough group, so I think we can all share, but sometimes if there's, background screaming, it can get a little distracting.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yes. Those of you who've spent an inordinate amount of time on Zoom, like me these days, know about this. Okay, so our first presenter today, we have Jerome, and Jerome is going to tell us a little bit about how you can keep things in your plot before we put it back for the communal composting, or have your worm bin. So let's take it away, Jerome. Oops. Oh dear. Hold on. Wrong slide. This one? Hold on.
Yeah. Next one. Yeah.
There we go. This is when you don't proofread what you just copied and pasted it, and you copied and pasted it in the wrong order. So, okay, Jerome, this is you. Go ahead, go for it.
Okay, so on this slide, you can see how to keep your compost neatly in a basket. This basket can be put behind a chair at the back of your plot. This basket is made with a tomato cage and with some vines. The good thing about it is that it allows you to put some small clippings, and also it allows the water to go through, because it's all full of holes, and therefore doesn't keep the water and allows the water to go in the ground, and so therefore doesn't feed mosquitoes. On the next slide, you can also dig a little trench at the front or at the back of your plot and put your clippings. In that case, it's probably going to be a little bit bigger than if you put it in the basket. And again, it's a very open area. So therefore, the materials can dry out, the water is not gathered, and you can keep it until you can bring it to a communal space. The other thing is that when you bring it to the communal space, you might see some ants, some little crawly creatures, and they are all very good for the earth and for the compost, because it helps also with the decomposing. So it's really not a problem to find little insects in your compost. And then the last slide, you have here something that I've been doing for several years now. At a time when we don't have NYC Compost coming to collect your food scrap at the market, you can have this metal can. This metal can that I have in my plot, in Julia's plot, is a can that we purchased a long time ago from Lower East Side Ecology. It's metal, so it's basically doesn't, and it's treated so it doesn't rust, it doesn't decompose, it's not plastic. It's also very nice because you have holes in it, so it allows, again, the water to flow. And finally, it is tightly, the lid is very tight to the can, and therefore you don't have animals coming in and picking up in your food scraps.
Right.
I'm thinking mostly about the squirrels. The way you put this can in your garden, you dig it a little hole, and the reason is that you can have that direct contact between the ground and what's in the can. So creatures can, I mean, little creatures, little worms can come in and out as they please, and if you feed them properly, they will be in your can. What you can put in it are mostly food scraps. So they are usually your vegetables, fruits. You can add also coffee ground, eggshells, no meat and no dairy, absolutely not, because that would attract vermin. And I also add to it some brown papers sometimes that I receive from things that was delivered in my house, or also little cardboard, such as paper towel rolls or toilet rolls that you can cut in pieces, and it also allows decomposing. And I also add in the fall leaves that I find in the alleys of the garden, so it gives a little brown, but it's not too brown. So basically you get this, you turn this on a regular basis to allow mixing all of the new and the old. And so it also helps the decomposing goes faster. The mush that you see is gathered in about 6 months. So the can is full in about 6 months from a family of 3. And when you see creatures, it's very, very good, because that means your food is healthy and decomposers are coming and helping with the decomposition. That allows also to go down very quickly. And it's not finished compost. Thank you, Julia. It's not finished compost. So basically, you can bring it to the communal area when it's allowed, and so therefore you have all the brown matters that are in the communal area that allows to make a better compost together. So that's basically what I do, and it's a very nice compost bin. And if you're curious, you can see a lot of things going around.
I know I've seen you bring worms back to the big communal bin. I mean, Anthony, I know, loves getting those big, there's lots of worms. They multiply in there pretty quick.
Yeah, the worms, I learned that the worms are basically, they live about 3 years. So, so when you have worms there, and I don't know, but the rate of reproduction, but when you have 2 or 3, you can say that's not a lot, but if you feed them properly, you will have a lot of them in no time. So yeah, that's really, really good.
That's amazing. So does anybody have any questions here?
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
stop
Where did,
share and we'll check on the chat. I don't see anything in the chat. Does anybody have any questions for Jerome?
yeah, I wanted to ask one question, and that is, where did you buy the can that you were describing?
Yeah, so we bought it long time ago at Lower East Side Ecology. I don't know if they still have them, but I know also I was doing a research this morning, quick search on the internet, and I know that there are a lot of places where you can buy them, and it's about $40.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Just Google compost can. And
Okay.
you might get the small one, but then if you like compost can, just keep Googling and you'll find it. Yeah.
Okay. Super. I'll look. It looks really interesting.
Excellent. Okay, so the next person that we have is going to be Jack.
I do have a question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned that it takes about 6 months for it to break down.
Yes.
So, but you keep adding. So let's say you're at a 5-month period and now you're bringing things in. So they haven't deteriorated yet.
Yes, absolutely. So you're absolutely right. So what happens is that whenever whenever the communal area is asking or is allowing me to bring it, then I can bring it, and it doesn't matter if you have some parts that are not decomposed yet. The decomposing is good because it brings the worms, and the worms are what helps also the big communal part. But it doesn't matter if it's not finished.
Fully broken down.
Yeah, and you'll see later when Karen and Shelley talk. One year we made this into finished compost, but in order to make it into finished compost, we had to stop bringing the food scraps, add enough brown material, and let it sit for a while.
Yeah.
So after a couple of years, we discovered the balance of whenever Anthony is making a big pile or when there's a bunch of browns or different times, then we'll kind of empty half of ours and keep going. So, but you can use these for a finished product, and Karen will tell you more about that.
Okay, great, thank you.
And Beverly had asked a question, is what kind of vines did they use to make the basket? And Julia answered Virginia creeper vines and a few honeysuckle and grapes. It's really a beautiful basket. I was admiring it as well. It's beautiful. Neil had a question, which is, what about adding weeds to an individual compost bin? Should we be concerned about certain types of weeds or their roots and seeds?
So Neil,
do you want to take that, Julia?
Sure. One of the reasons I like to use the big communal compost bins, and that's why I keep the materials in my plot, either the wet green materials or the dried plant life materials, which are the browns. The reason I like to use the big bins is because they get hot enough. Because Anthony takes the temperature, and they get, after you build a big bin, it will get up to over 140 degrees, often between 40 and 160. And Anthony regularly takes that temperature, and we know that that is the correct temperature for killing the weed seeds.
Okay.
So that's why I like the bigger communal bins, because I know they're getting really hot. When you use a small one, it's more of a cold composting method, and you'd have to read up a little more about that.
Yeah.
But you can actually get to the hot temperature, and Karen's going to talk a little bit about some techniques for having a full compost cycle in your own plot. You can, in your own plot, get up to the higher temperature and kill all of the weed seeds. But you do want to make sure you have the right ratios, and you want to make sure that you get the temperature up. So, so Karen will talk a little bit more about that when we get to Karen. But yes, you can. It's the temperature, the heating.
Do we know roughly when the common composting will become available?
So
20th.
June 20th, what we're going to do is Anthony has a time from, and what we'll probably be doing going forward is having set times for people to bring stuff back. So it also can be an education where you guys then know, you learn, okay, I need to do this with this and put it here. I need to do this with this type of matter and put it here. And so everybody's actually involved in the process, because it's not, you know, Anthony's not, and George and Kaz, you know, they're not paid staff. So we all should be doing our part to either compost it in our plot or help contribute to the communal good. So we're gonna kind of have set times, regular time, not exactly the same each week, but have times that we announce that people can bring it back, and everyone can do what they can do. Some people, you know, obviously can do more than others, so everybody can kind of work together to contribute. Any more questions before we move on to Jack?